The most popular rumor mill on the internet when it comes to jump training is what makes THP different. Is it actually better? Is it not better? Is it just a scam? What is THP? Why is it better? Why is it different? What's up guys, my name is John Evans and this video might seem a little bit biased because I am the co-owner and co-founder of THPStrength. So as I've scoured the internet and looked at a ton of the comments, a lot of the time people ask like, well, why are you guys better? What makes you different? Or what makes you so special when it comes to vertical jump training? And especially why should I do your program over another program? So number one, I don't think that people understand plyos, and I think that we do a very, very good job of implementing them correctly. Most of the time when you do vertical jump programs, they are just going to absolutely spam plyos. You're gonna see things that are repeat hops, they're gonna be hurdle hops, there's gonna be depth jumps, and typically they integrate them way too early, way too early. And what happens as a result is one, athletes either get hurt, or two, they limit their adaptation because they didn't do the things prior that would have made the plyos more effective. So that's the first thing that makes us way different than other programs. The second is no program is necessarily the same. Each program is designed to fit an athlete's individual needs. This is in line with individuality, and it's one of the most important things when it comes to getting better. Your program has to meet your specific needs. Now, you might be on the other side of that and saying like, well, I've seen athletes who have other programs. The reason why is because you're probably an athlete that falls into the same bucket as that other athlete. So for example, if you're a 15-year-old who has never strength trained in his entire life and only has access to dumbbells, then you probably need to get strong. That's a very fundamental basic thing to do. And so we're gonna meet that need. However, if you're an athlete who has dumbbells and knee pain, then we're gonna meet that need. And the program is set up so that there are no stones left unturned, which is maybe the third thing, is we address every single physiological capacity. A lot of the vertical jump programs out there are very limited in their understanding of adaptation and getting better. So for example, if you want to be the highest jumper in the world, you can't just max out your back squat and jump. There are gonna be things that you don't achieve in terms of your physiology because you're missing things like cardiorespiratory endurance or muscular endurance or anaerobic endurance, and maybe you're not doing the flexibility that is going to be specific to your actual needs. So that is another way that we are wildly different. The fourth way is we pioneered vertical jump training from essentially taking all of the cohorts of vertical jumpers, testing them over the last 7 years, and that was a basis of my work in track and field prior to that. So really what makes us different is we've taken the most advanced training information that we have from research and then anecdote and then also guys that are world best of the best in track and field and applied it to vertical jump, but we've also tested it. And most people don't actually do their own vertical jump programs. They don't actually test it. And as a result, you just end up with something that like hypothetically might be really good, but if you don't actually do it, how are you to know if it's actually effective? And so I think that separates us from a lot of other programs is every single program that I've written, I've either tested, Isaiah's tested, or someone has tested to see the actual efficacy of it. This brings me to my next point. A lot of people are copycats, and I don't want to call them the Walmart brand, but the number of times that people steal workouts or get coached by us purely for the sake of making money and trying to copy it, a worse version of it, for sometimes more expensive, is insane. It happens all the time. It is very frustrating. There's really nothing you can do about it, but everything that we've done is pioneered, and if you're using like a copycat's program, you're really getting the off-brand version for probably more money. And that can lead to a lot of problems. One is they're not as knowledgeable. So another thing that makes us different is you actually can communicate with us. And all of our coaches are probably better than the off-brand coaches because we've trained them for years and years and years. They've trained with me for years and years and years, and I'm still writing the programs and they know how I want things done. So if I were to just hand off the program writing to these guys, I wouldn't necessarily feel confident that people are gonna get better. And I think that does separate us from a lot of other people. There's very few coaches out there that I myself would respect in vertical jumping. And I'm not saying that to be like narcissistic or anything, but I think I've spent more time studying vertical jumping and testing it with more athletes than a lot of other coaches. And there are other good coaches out there, but I do think that the copycat brands that, you know, we were one of the first people to do online coaching, I just don't think they do a very good job. So another major problem is that people don't understand load management and they don't understand progressive overload. So oftentimes when you look at the progressions of, you know, programs that are just some copy and pasted thing or a PDF, is there's not a lot of progressive overload. It's always going to be like, well, if you feel good enough to do this, then do this. Or if you feel good enough to do this, then do this. And there's a time and place for that. But that happens when you are a coach in person working with an athlete and you're able to make those adjustments, or you have regular contact points with that athlete and the options that you have with them are insane. So for example, Isaiah, if Isaiah comes in and he tells me his back hurts or something like that, yeah, in that case, I'm going to say, okay, well, if you can't do back squat, then I want you to do belt squat, or I want you to do leg press or something else. But a lot of the time it's much less directed than that. And I think that that can lead to a lot of problems long term. It can lead to tendon problems most specifically. Like if you're an athlete and you come in, your knees are banged up, and you go ahead and you jump through that session, you don't communicate with a coach. I think that makes us wildly different and makes THP wildly different, is that we tell you how to adjust the program to stay healthy long term. And then the second thing is the progression. Sometimes it's just like you're repeating the same like standard for ages, and you never really actually get better, or you never actually move across that continuum to jump higher. And ultimately that's going to be the goal. Another thing I noticed is a lot of programs do not push the intensity in the weight room. Why? I don't really know. I'm not really sure why that is a commonality, but they'll oftentimes just spam kind of gimmicky exercises or make claims. If you're going to do any jump program, my biggest recommendation for you would be one, or do one, that has the fundamentals in it. So does it have Olympic lifting? Does it have, full squats? Does it have RDLs and hinging? If you're not even addressing the fundamental movements of pushing, pulling, squatting, hinging, jumping, sprinting, then you're probably not a very good program. And then on top of that, as I previously said, if it's not progressed and you're just doing the same lift over and over and over again, then you're leaving a lot of gains on the table. There's so much that you can work on as an athlete. You can work on your tendons, you can work on your muscles, you can work on the musculotendinous unit and how it's functioning. You can work on the proteins or the receptors in those muscles, and there's specific tools that you can use to achieve those goals, and it has to be at the right time. So for example, I'm not just gonna throw accentuated eccentrics at someone. There has to be a progression for that, so it makes sense in that athlete's journey to get better. All right, another thing that I think separates us wildly from other people is we're not afraid of the Olympic lifts. I think that if you talk to any of my best athletes, they would pretty well tell you that the Olympic lifts have helped them immensely. Not necessarily just in the way of like, well, I've gotten stronger, I've gotten better at them. I think there's other unintended consequences that happen when you are better at the Olympic lifts. One is that you're more coordinated, you're better at flexion extension patterns, you're more confident doing different things and being able to use more variety. And maybe that's the whole point of this, is that we use so much variety in the programs. You're gonna see, you'll see the same lift, but there's gonna be some variety built in. Maybe you're using a pause on a clean, maybe you're doing a lower into something explosive, or a lower slow into a pause into a jump. And that allows you to keep spurring on adaptation, improving, and keeping things fresh. And the last one is going to be the coach-athlete relationship. I think we've done a very good job of, as we've grown, of hiring coaches that are incredibly, incredibly skilled. And even in some cases, there's areas where they excel more so than I would. And I really lean into the idea that you need to surround yourself with people that are better than you to push yourself. So for example, Ben is a physical therapist. Rich is a volleyball coach. Josh was a D2 basketball player. We have these coaches hired because they not only meet the demands of what I'm asking them to do as a coach and understanding the system that we use, but they're also good at some other thing, and they bring something else to the table that they can give you guys that is of value. For the price point, to me, it's a no-brainer. I think if you were to go to a gym and you were to pay, me, for example, for 1 hour sessions, I mean, you're looking at $300 a session. Or you could get essentially the blueprint to do it, and then all of the videos explaining it for relative, like let's say if you did that 5 days a week for, let's say it's 25 days in a month, that's $5,000 a month. Or you could pay $120 if you're paying on the most expensive side, and still have access to us and still have the way that we want things done, be a part of the system, and be integrated. And I think this is maybe a caveat or something I'd add is THP is a system. It's not just picking your favorite exercises and putting them in, or like picking and choosing what you like to do. That might be fun and it might be easy, but that's not ultimately what you need to get better. There are things you have to do if you want to improve. And I think all the guys that live in the house, and Isaiah and the athletes that have interacted with me in person, know this better than anyone else, because I'm very militant about what those things are. And when those things aren't done, typically other problems arise, whether it's knee pain or back pain or whatever else. The more they deviate from it, the worse they get, because it's not in line with the system. And the system is not just made up rules. It's not based off anything other than evidence. So it's based on the science. So for example, you probably shouldn't jump 2 days in a row. Why? Because we know that tendons respond latently. They have a 48-hour response. You probably shouldn't load 2 high intensity days back to back. Why? Because your nervous system is super sensitive. So it doesn't really make sense to do that. You probably shouldn't sprint without a thorough warm up. Why? And these rules they're cemented in what we do at THP. They are always there, and they might be annoying, but they're there for a reason. And everything in the program has a legitimate reason. That's the video, guys. If you're interested in coaching, just go to the website, THPStrength. We're working on a massive overhaul of the app, and we're going to have an amazing, even better product than we already have that's going to service you guys even better. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.